Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. I'm continuing my interviews with the pastors and missionaries in the United Reformed Churches. And we have a face maybe that you do recognize, Pastor Rich Kuiken. Pastor Rich has been in the URC from the beginning and has served many years in Pompton Plains United Reformed Church, and is now one of our missionaries in the Poconos in East Stroudsburg. I hope that I got that right. East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. Welcome, Rich. Great to have you on.
Thank you, Rich. It's good to see you again.
Rich, maybe we can just begin with a little background. Maybe some of the folks haven't seen the first video. Maybe just give us a real quick history, how you got to East Stroudsburg and how the church began.
Sure, Rich. Great question, and I'd be glad to do that. I was called right out of seminary back in 1983 to Pompton Plains, New Jersey, and served there by the grace of God for 35 years. And toward the end of those 35 years, Rich, I really started feeling a burden to plant a church before official retirement one day, Lord willing. And I had been encouraged by some older pastors throughout my ministerial career to consider church planting. So it's something the Lord always laid on my heart, and that was a growing burden until we officially, were commissioned for Pennsylvania.
And you've been there now. How long did you say? 2.5 years?
A little over 2 years. Yeah. We were commissioned by Pompton Plains and Classis Eastern US of the URCNA early January 2019. We had been coming out during 2018 to meet with our core group folks for once a month, but moved out here in early January 2019. So we've been out here a little over 2 years now.
How has it gone? You started with a small core group.
Yes.
How have things progressed?
Well, again, Rich, it's all by God's grace. It's progressed well. We started meeting in a room adjacent to a restaurant locally here. Over several months, we sort of outgrew that, and the owner of the restaurant also owned the accompanying Days Inn, and he offered to us for just about the same price to use the blue tequila, which, as you might suspect, was the bar of the Days Inn, but it was larger. So had a dance floor and everything, and we bought some partitions to section off the bar, and that's where we met also for several months. We were providentially led to the Wilkins Real Estate Building in Stroudsburg, an adjacent town. But right the week we were supposed to move into Wilkins, COVID hit and the shutdown happened. And that kind of left us in limbo for a little bit at that time. That was early, of course, of 2020.
How have you gotten to know people? How have you gotten the word out? Are these folks from other churches? Are they new Christians? Maybe just give us a little background on your work. Sure,
Rich. When the shutdown happened, as is true for probably most, if not all churches, we had to stop meeting indoors. And as spring was coming, my wife, Margaret, had the idea for us to meet outdoors. My initial comment was, that's crazy, but she said, well, let's give it a try. Well, providentially, a young, middle-aged couple had moved pretty close to us, having heard about the church plant, and they had purchased 13 acres. Mm-hmm. And they graciously offered their property for outdoor worship. They had a large circular driveway. People could stay in their cars if they wanted to, or they could sit on the lawn chairs, blankets, and so on. So we actually did that for several weeks. And the realization that there was a church worshiping early on in COVID actually gave us a bit of a name in the area. And we started drawing some people to that outdoor worship service. About midsummer last year, we were able to move into Wilkins. It's right off of just a minute or so off Route 80. And people just started coming. And it's a real mixture, in answer to your question, of some folks that were unchurched, but saw a church starting up. Some were, in fact, several were from a Baptist background, longing for a Reformed church. Some had prayed for decades, Rich, to have a Reformed church in this area. Others were from various non-denominational, Lutheran. We've got even some former cult members, believe it or not, attending, former Jehovah's Witness, former Mormons, etc. And it just kind of started building on itself. And our biggest evangelistic tool, and I think this is very biblical when you consider John 1, Andrew gets his brother Simon and Philip tells Nathaniel, Rich, that has happened a lot. And people are just bringing people. And so by God's grace, the Wilkins facility is filling up, and that's where we are today.
That's neat. What have some of the challenges been for you? You're in an area where I'm sure there are other churches, not a lot of Reformed churches. I know that you're very few, right?
Yeah, basically none. The nearest Reformed church would be an RCA about half an hour north of here, which again, RCA congregation, but there are literally no other Reformed churches right in our area. In fact, we were just in touch with an OPC in Readers, PA, which unfortunately is closing. Their pastor is retiring, and that little group is down to just a few souls, and they have closed. So there's really nothing within a pretty broad radius here in our area of Reformed faith. Yeah.
Wow. The challenges that you've had, what would you say they are? Like the biggest challenge in your work, getting the word out? I know COVID obviously has been tough, but as a missionary, you're called as a missionary.
Yeah.
I know you've done different things to get to know people. What are some of those things?
Yeah, Rich, thanks. A good question again. The COVID was frustrating in that you couldn't visit people normally in their homes or hospital, wherever they may be. That was frustrating. So what I started doing initially, I would basically talk to everybody I met that I was a pastor. We had a new church plant. Could I be of service to them or their family pastorally in any way? I'd give them a business card, which had, the worship time, location, and so on, with John 3:16 on it, as well as our mission statement, to love people where they are and to disciple them to where Christ wants them to be. And dozens and dozens and dozens of people have been invited. A few of them have come, not as many as you would like, but a few have. And that's been exciting to me. Also, several weeks ago, I heard on the radio that it was National Police Officers Appreciation Week. And with what's going on in our country concerning defund the police movements and the like, I made an appointment with Jennifer Lyon. She's the chief of police for Stroud Area Regional Police. And it's the largest area-wide police force, regional police force in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Anyway, I met with her, pledged our support. She appreciated our prayers, didn't know about our church. So it enabled me to give opportunity for her and her officers to avail themselves of my pastoral ministry and our ministries if they would like. So that sort of thing. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Very good. That personal side is so important. And I think so many people right now are just longing to talk to people. And, that lack of human connection has been so hard. I know for a lot of our church planters, it's been frustrating, right? Because you want to get out there, you want to be on the street, and it hasn't been easy to meet new people, but I'm so glad that you've had opportunity to do so.
Rich, that's really true. And it is of the Lord that he's got to bring in his sheep. I was in the bank the other day in Wells Fargo for bringing in our offering that week. And as is my custom, whoever my teller is, I give him a card and I invite him to worship and so on. Well, providentially, the girl who had been in front of me in line, she had changed her password and couldn't get into her account. And so the teller said to her, well, listen, you're going to have to wait for someone of the other bankers to be able to help you with that. You better take a seat. So she goes and sits down. I'm talking with this guy, Nicholas, inviting him to worship and so on. He said, well, what time is your mass? What time is your mass? 10 o'clock. And I said, 10 o'clock. And he said, well, I hope to see you Sunday. So as I'm walking out, Rich, this girl gets up from where she was sitting and she said, excuse me, did I hear you're a pastor? And I said, oh yeah. She goes, can I have one of those cards? She said, my boyfriend and I need a lot of prayer. Her name was Amanda. Her boyfriend's name was Tom. And she said, I hope to see you Sunday. Excuse me. And unfortunately, again, they didn't come. But Rich, that is classic. That is classic of people out here are very open. They share their burdens, their story, their family situation. And we've invited that way dozens. And we're simply praying for the Lord to bring in that kind of a harvest because the opportunities are virtually endless. They really are.
Well, Is there a story, Rich, that you can share with us? Somebody whose life has been changed by the gospel that you've seen?
Wow. I'll use one that's, I'll say, not maybe changed, but changing. There's a woman worshiping with us who is dating a fella who is not a Christian. And he's probably 50-ish or so. His name is Rick. And he manages a large ShopRite over in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, just across the river, Delaware River. And she started bringing him to church. And he was showing spiritual interest. And I made an appointment with him to meet him at work during his lunch break. Huge supermarket. And we're in his office, and I'm just sharing Rich some of the basics to build on what he had heard in worship a couple times. And I was using the example of the prodigal son welcoming home, the father welcoming home prodigal sons and daughters. In fact, the girl he's dating is sort of a prodigal daughter. And he was looking at me with a blank stare. Absolutely had no idea what I was talking about with the prodigal son and all that. So I gave him a pastor's class manual that I had used for many years in Pompton Plains, and he is starting to work through that on his own. And we are scheduling times together to go over that one-on-one, because it's all too fast, too new, too much for him. But when he is in worship, Rich, he is literally leaning forward in his seat, staring at me almost as if he's looking through me, because he's never heard the gospel before. Yeah. And he's had a hard life. He's previously divorced and so on. And he needs the hope of the gospel and the comfort of the gospel. And anyway, he's a disciple that is in progress or process, I'll say, and someone that we're really praying for and asking the Lord to have his spirit water those seeds that are being sown in his life. That's one example.
That's so true, though, isn't it? I think we're all in progress.
Yeah,
all of us, whether we've been with the Lord for many years or just starting out. But it is so exciting. I found oftentimes people will look, like you say, look right through you. They're looking into your eyes. Is this the real deal?
Yes. Yes. Well said.
Could the good news possibly be true?
Could this really be true?
Yeah. Neat.
Yes.
As we close, Rich, are there any specific prayer requests that you can give to us for our churches?
Well, just last evening, providentially, I met with an elder, a deacon, and the classical treasurer for Eastern U.S., Classis Eastern U.S. So we met at Pompton Plains to put together our 2022 budget for next year, which will be presented to Classis after the consistory there approves that, Lord willing. And we also talked, Rich, believe it or not, of a tentative timeline toward incorporation. Wow. We're hoping, I hope to finish teaching the Heidelberg Catechism in adult Sunday school by the end of this year. I've already been through the Canons of Dort with them and so on. I said to the brothers on council from Pompton last night, we're kind of in a slow motion pastor's class. It's gone on for, 2, almost 3 years now. So we're hoping to complete that by the end of this year, that kind of teaching. And then over the winter, have several of those folks fill out new member questionnaires, be interviewed by the consistory at Pompton, become members there since we are not yet incorporated. And Lord willing, perhaps by the end of 2022, become incorporated. Again, Lord willing. Now, to do that, something that would be very helpful to us would be having our own facility. We've had 3 different locations: Huddle House, Blue Tequila, and now the Wilkins Real Estate Building. But we're just pressing the limits on that already. And from what we hear from some local realtors, there are churches that have not survived COVID. In fact, we had a lady who came, Rich. It's a crazy thing. We have a couple worshiping with us who supplies a restaurant in New Jersey with beef and eggs and things. And this lady was a customer at that restaurant, and her church closed because of COVID. And so the people who are worshiping with us invite the restaurant owners who are worshiping with us, who invited this woman, Stacy, I think her name is. Oh boy, I'm embarrassed right now. But anyway, she's only been a couple times. But so that's happening. But a place of our own would be like planting our flag. Yeah. And so that would be a major prayer item. We don't want to run ahead of the Lord. We don't want to lag behind the Lord. But we're getting to the point where we really need a place of our own, as some of the other home missionaries have. And I think Rich Bolcha was just provided for in that regard. So that's a big prayer for us, that the Lord would lead us to the right place, the right location at the right time, and then of course provide the funding for that. But that's a bit of a blessing problem for us. It's getting a little crowded. That will start turning people away. And we just want to be obedient to the Lord's timing and his leading on that, knowing that he will provide as he has thus far. He's never failed us or forsaken us.
Well, thanks so much, Rich. Really appreciate you being on. Pray that the Lord continues to bless you in your work. And yeah, I know our churches too are praying. It's exciting to hear what God's doing.
Well, Rich, I'm praising God along with you. It is all of grace. We have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all surpassing power is from God and not from us. And it's an honor to be interviewed by you. I love you. I praise God for your ministry in our midst and the missions committee. And may the Lord be with you and multiply our ministry together.
Thanks so much, Rich. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah. Thanks, Rich. You too. God bless.